Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabby. Some of you might know me, some might not. I have been in recovery for a little bit now. I am a recovered heroin addict, a low-down, dirty junkie, I had experienced homelessness, been out on the street, in and out of institutions, jails, and such. But by the grace of God, I'm sober today, and I was given the privilege of working for a non-for-profit here on Long Island that does street outreach with the homeless. And it was an exciting opportunity because I got to go out on the street and into the woods and interact with, people that normally I wouldn't be able to reach. And upon my travels, I have made some pretty gruesome discoveries about my hometown and the surrounding areas. I only work within the town of Brookhaven, Suffolk County. And what I have come to learn and what I've come to realize after many meetings and sit-downs, I guess, with legislatures and representatives of the county and DSS and everything else, other non-for-profits. They push this housing first model, get a roof over everybody's head, because really what it comes down to is nobody wants to look at what's going on here. Nobody wants to see it on their way to Dunkin' Donuts or on their way to work. It makes people sick. They see them as scum of the earth, derelicts, degenerates. Why don't you get a job? All of these things. So they push this housing first model. And for people, when you're out there and interact with them, these are people suffering from immense drug addiction, immense mental illness. They refer to them as the chronically homeless, and anybody with a brain between their ears can objectively say that somebody that is chronically homeless isn't chronically homeless because they just lost their job or just because, their house burnt down. The average person is able to go down to DSS, reach out to organizations and get back on their feet. It is the people that suffer chronically that prohibit them from keeping appointments, from managing their lives, from working, and also with the drug addiction and mental illness comes an immense distrust for the system because it has repetitively let them down. Here on Long Island, in order to get into treatment for heroin addiction, you have to be in full-blown withdrawal, full-blown alcohol, Xanax, or heroin withdrawal, in order to get any sort of rehabilitation, to get into detox. I've brought many people. I used to work with sober houses, and we would have to make our clients drink a beer or, usually drink a beer in order to get in. I mean, it's a very... It's a very disturbed system, very ineffective. Most alcoholics, most heroin addicts can't hold themselves together long enough to be in withdrawal. It's very painful. To be sick is a terrible, terrible sensation. Most people can't hold it together. And then once you're in there, you're in a waiting room for like 6 to 7 hours. The hospitals really dropped the ball on this one. Treatment centers really dropped the ball on this one. And, blaming it on health insurance, like, come on now, oh, they're doing the best they can. No, if as long as you've got premium insurance and not, state Medicaid, you're in there. Most of these people are coming from the street. All they have is Medicaid. But, let's continue. Anyway, so this housing first model, when you speak to somebody about their experience in a shelter or in, HUD housing or any place like that, they'll tell you that they don't want to return there, or they had a bad experience because there was drug use, because there was drug sales, because people were stealing their things. Well, that's because you're taking untreated alcoholics, drug addicts, and the mentally ill and putting them into these situations without treating the problem at hand. I recently was reprimanded by my boss. He sent me an email saying, getting people into detox and rehab is good, but we're trying to find a permanent solution. And I had stated back to him, well, putting people into these shelters, into this environment without treating the drug addiction and the mental illness first, it seems pretty temporary to me. They're going to get kicked out without a doubt, or they're going to leave. So ultimately the county has dropped the ball. We are seeing an immense rise in crystal meth, in gang activity, and especially sex trafficking. America's Best over in Port Jeff, the Comfort Inn in Medford, the motels down in Patchogue, young women just being exploited, pretty much catatonic from the drugs they're being fed. Young women, young, beautiful women being fed these drugs and just being passed around for a buck. And I sat down with the police, and the police know what's going on, and they say, they're trying their best. Ultimately, if you really take a look around, if you open your eyes, nothing's happening, and working for street outreach and going out there and talking with these people like they are suffering. They want help. They need help. But when I bring them into detox and rehab, the ones that are willing to go, they go through their 28 days, and ultimately, without recovery houses, there's no place for them to go. Spot housing takes months. Section 8 takes years. So God bless the recovery houses here on Long Island. I mean, I know so many people have bad things to say about them, but truly, like, a clean, sober house is ultimately the best form of housing we can offer. Especially ones with social workers on staff, medical staff. This is the route I choose to go, with my clients. But the things that I've seen, ladies and gentlemen, the places that I've been and the things that I've seen in our local towns, Coram, Medford, Patchogue, Bellport, Mastic, Shirley, Port Jefferson. I mean, young men and women sleeping on pieces of cardboard, that cry to me like, that everybody's just given up on me. Everybody's just disgusted by me. Like, they feel like they have no hope. And the saying goes, from whenever, it takes a village to raise a child. Everybody is so caught up in their little lives that they forget, to extend a hand, donating clothes and food when you can. That's a good thing. But you got to make sure where the donations are going. It doesn't take much to just drive down to the bus stop and drop off clothes for yourself, like by yourself, make sure you know where the clothes are going. These people are damned as dangerous, and I sit amongst them. I speak with them. I get to know their stories, and I help them in any way I possibly can. But I guess what I'm trying to say here is that if you expect the next person that comes along to do something, they're not. If you expect your county, your local government, and these organizations to do something when you're standing right there, what can you say? They're not going to do it. Most of these organizations are doing the best that they can with what they're given. And a lot of them are misdirected. I can't stress enough about the housing first. I mean, it's just an endless cycle. You know, when I was sitting in with a meeting with the county, they're like, oh, we're doing all of these things, but it seems like we're not making a dent. Of course not. Of course not. You have to push treatment first. You have to get these people into treatment. You have to get them into hospitals. The hospitals need to work harder. The hospitals need to change their policies. People are out there dying, suffering, and the numbers just grow and grow daily. Crystal meth has made its way to Long Island. You thought fentanyl and heroin, was widespread. Just wait. Just wait. If we don't do something now, if people, your neighbor, yourself, don't act now, it's going to be next door. It's going to be down at your child's bus stop. The amount of friends that I have buried, the amount of loved ones, the amount of caskets I've had to stand over because nobody was there for them. People gave up, like, oh, it's just too much. It's just too dark. It's too dark dealing with addiction. Who's going to be the light? Oh, it's God's plan. Well, ultimately, from what I have seen, my experience here is every person that goes out and acts in goodwill is the loving hand of God. And I don't know what more to say. I don't know, what more I can do. All I can say is, like, we as a society, as a community, have to do better. I don't know. Maybe this is just me crying out for them.